Well, since the latter part of last week, we've had a big debate about the fall in inflation. So today we're going to look at your pocket and then the good governance question. One of the first things we need to do is to track back to last year when this current government took over under the leadership, as far as the economy is concerned, of Dr. Statistical. Why is this important? We need to track back to the promises that he made. And now we have a year on to measure whether he's keeping his promise within the broad framework of inflation, stabilizing the cedi, and creating jobs. But tonight, our focus is two-pronged: inflation and stabilizing the cedi. This was the finance minister. When he came before Parliament's Appointments Committee for vetting, he was asked this question, and this was his answer.
Minister of Finance, what will be your top priorities to address these challenges?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Chairman, let me also thank His Excellency the President for the honor done me, and my party, the NDC, again, I want to be remembered as the one who helped to reduce prices and stabilize the currency and create jobs. That is
as the Minister of Finance, what will be your top priorities to address these challenges?
I want to be remembered as the one who helped to reduce prices and stabilize the currency and create jobs. That is what I ask God to help me to achieve. Thank you.
So three things he says there. He wants to be remembered as the one who reduced prices, stabilized currency, created jobs. So his focus was very clear. He knew what he wanted to do. He articulated it, and there were three key bullet points. So let's track that a year on. Let's start with the obvious question about the exchange rate. And I'll start with that, although that was his second priority. His first priority was reduce prices. His second was exchange rate, stabilize the exchange rate. Now, at the time in December 2024, just before this particular vetting happened, it was $1 equals 14 cedis, 7 pesos. As we speak currently in February of 2026, it is $1 equals 11 cedis. So you could say that as far as that is concerned, it ticks the box on the stabilization of the cedi. The exchange rate question, which was his priority. Number two, stabilizing the currency. This tells us that he has ticked that particular box. And part of the reason why we've seen a lot of the positives in the economy as we've seen. And then there's a second question, which is for him the first priority, which is he wants to be remembered as a minister who reduced prices. And that goes to the inflation question necessarily. And remember, inflation will come to that. It's not necessarily the reduction in price. In fact, it is not at all the reduction in prices. This is the fact that prices are increasing, but at a slower pace. But it has consequences for price stability for the consumers, right, for the general public. And if you look then at that, you see at the time that in December 2024, it was 23.8%. Currently, we're talking about 3.8%. And historically, I'll show you the graph very shortly, this is the lowest inflation we've had in 27 years. The last time we had that was 1999, according to the Statistical Service itself. And so that tells us a story that on that question of reducing prices, this is not sufficient to say he's ticked the box. We need to see additional evidence, right, before we can come to the conclusion. But it is strongly pointing to him keeping that promise. And the additional evidence will show to make the point. The only way to do that, and the thing about the case of Statistical is that he believed in the real economy. So we had to measure this in the real economy. We did exactly just that pretty shortly. Stay with me. Now, I say the three things he says he will do is what we call, PM Express, the autonomics, because that basically defines his policy, his theory of economic management. And now we look at the cedi appreciation. When it comes to the decline that we've seen over the period, The cedi's appreciation is very strong, a factor there. You also have the lower fuel prices, all coming together to ensure that inflation is doing very, very well under his watch. And then you see the graph there that tells a big story of 23.8, as we said, in December 2024, to now 3.8% in terms of the rate of inflation in January 2026. Again, making the point that, yes, he's on a path now to ensuring that prices are reduced. And when we begin to break it down, you see that he's had that impact. He's ticked that box in many respects. And inflation dropping to this historic low as far as 27-year window is concerned also backs his promise that he has obviously evidentially delivered on. Now, a key thing to watch is what I was just indicating for you historically. You want to track back. And this is the 27-year graph that we pull for you just to make the point about where this particular inflation figure sits within the broader scheme of things. If you track back all the way to 1999, 27 years you're talking about, this is the lowest we've seen. And he takes the credit for it because he came before the Parliament's Appointments Committee, was asked a question, and he was clear on his vision and his priorities. And this, indeed, he delivers a historic low in 27 years as far as inflation is concerned. Okay. So how exactly is the Statistical Service calculating inflation? And this has been the subject of some controversy last week when the number, of course, is 3.8. You can understand that. If it's 27 years, we haven't seen this number before, people will raise questions. So basically, 207 selected items. The statisticians go into the marketplace. They select 207 of the items. They go to 57 markets across the country, and they look at 8,337 outlets. And then they look at the prices of goods across these outlets and in these markets, and they strike the average over time, and then they arrive at the headline inflation figures. That is how they do this. But the items for me are important. We talk about food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity, clothing. You talk about recreation, you talk about education services, all go into that basket that then is analyzed, and then the average price is then struck, and then we get a sense of what the inflation rate is. But I like this because let's now relate to it, and let's take Atufosing at his own game, because he likes the real economy. That's what really he believes to be what you need to use to measure if the economy is doing well or not. Reflection in your pocket. And if you just look at this one, we picked this directly from the Statistical Service basket, by the way. Real numbers on bread. It used to be 12.8% as far as the inflation rate is concerned in January 2025 when he was vetted, just around the same time when he was vetted. Currently, the inflation rate is at 8% in that particular basket. What does that mean? That tells you that the prices of bread have not necessarily dropped, but the rate at which it's increasing is very, very slow. And Sarah has bread for me to illustrate the point. Thank you, Sarah. How much is this?
So this is 22 cedis.
22 cedis.
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
Article. Close to Dansoman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 22 cedis?
Yes.
In Article?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Sarah went to that particular bakery and had an interaction. So this particular bread we're seeing right now, currently the rate of inflation is 8%. It used to be 12.8% in 2025 when Atufosing was verted. So what really is the market telling us? We spoke to two individuals who ran a bakery. Sarah did. Watch.
Tell me how much you were selling your bread last year. How much was the price?
Yeah, it's the same price as today.
How much was it?
Yeah, at first it was 22, and it's the same 22. This year is still 22.
But I know the inflation has really dropped. Now
Yeah.
it's 3.8%. So why are you still selling it at 20?
In Ghana here, we don't matter much about inflation. When prices decrease, when inflation decreases, when exchange rate decreases, we don't care about those things. Prices don't change.
Are you sure?
Yes, we don't reduce our prices.
How much was the flour? Is it a sack?
Yeah, it's a sack,
Okay,
50
so how much was it
kilogram.
last year?
Last year, from where we usually buy it, is 755 at Kanishi.
Okay.
But I don't know the wholesale price.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's for a sack. One sack was
One sack.
flour this year.
Yeah, we
How much
usually.
was it? When you bought it, how much was
This year is 135. 735.
Meaning there have been some decrease. So why are you not reducing your prices?
Just as I said, in Ghana here, when those exchange rate and inflation rate drops, it doesn't affect our commodity price. Nobody wants to decrease their prices. Even though, that is the nature of Ghanaian businessman.
Okay, what about other ingredients? So aside from the flour, what again do you buy, and what are the prices? Tell me about the prices, comparing it from last year to this year.
It depends the type of ingredient that you use. Some ingredients has come down, others too hasn't.
So which one do you use, and have they come down?
Yeah, the one that we use, the margin like this, at first it was 460, but now it's 420. Others also sell it for 10. So it depends. It normally change.
I want to focus on you. Last year you bought is it a container, the margarine?
In small quantity, 20 pieces or 10 pieces or 5 pieces, depends.
So last year how much was it? How much did you buy it?
The quantity or the price?
The price.
The price was 450. 450 or and 460 in between. That price.
And this year, how much is it?
This year it has dropped to 410.
Meaning prices have gone down.
Yeah, what we are afraid of is maybe it can go up again.
But it hasn't. It hasn't.
The difficulties where we are facing the bread business is that when you try to decrease the price and you are increasing it again, customers will not buy it. They will reject it. But money is not in the system, so a lot of people, if you try to reduce and increase, nobody will care to buy it again.
So finally, even though prices have gone down, you still can't reduce your...
No, because of the customers' behavior. The way customers usually relate to increasing and decreasing. It doesn't even push us to or affect us to decrease the price.
How much was your bread last year? The loaf of bread?
Last year is 19.
Last year was 19.
But this year is 20.
Why? After the inflation has dropped, I thought that you rather reduce it to maybe 18 or 17 cedis. Why is it 20 cedis now?
Last year, one flour is 740, but now it's 710. Reduced 30 cedis. But our cars, spare parts has gone up, electricity has gone up, water has gone up. First, like I can buy 200 cedis light a week, but now it's double. And that's the reason why I increased mine.
Okay, what about the other ingredients, like the butter,
margarine, everything? Yes.
How about those prices?
The margarine too has come down.
But what's the name? What again do you use as?
Not milk flavors, but just small, 5 cedis, 10 cedis. That's flavors, 5 cedis, 10 cedis. Okay. So I can't change anything. Okay. That's why.
So now your bread is
20 cedis, one loaf. But the customers, they sell it 25 cedis.
Okay. Do you have any plans of reducing it again?
No. Okay. Unless they reduce the flour.
How much is the flour now?
710.
710.
710.
But last year was
740.
740. Okay. So if they are able to reduce it to
like 600, yeah.
You can
also reduce the price like maybe 15 cedis or 17.
The drop of the inflation is not really having an impact on.
No. Because now light has gone up.
Okay, so your problem is the light.
Light, spare parts.
That's transport, right? Okay.
Spare parts.
Okay.
Last year I bought one of my car boot, 5,000. By this year, 10,000.
Wow. Okay. So they are all influencing the prices of your bread.
Bread.
Okay.
So if like flour come like 600, yeah, we can reduce it by 15 cedis.
Okay.
So I'm still holding the bread because it's a fascinating story. Let's break what we just had down. This really illustrates this inflation conversation in a way that you can relate to. So let's take the first the first individual we spoke to who ran that bakery, he tells us that in his case, the input, but both of them really, the input that they used to produce this bread, this loaf of bread, both prices have reduced significantly. Because in the case of flour, in the first guy's instance, he says that the price of flour has gone down by 20 cedis. In the second guy's instance, the price of flour that he currently buys is now 30 cedis less than what it used to be a year ago. So that's flour. And you can imagine, flour is such a central input in producing bread. And then there's margarine. Margarine has gone down by 40 to 50 cedis. So that's significant indeed. And you will think that they will pass that savings on to you as far as the price of bread is concerned. So you see inflation, the inflation rate is dropping all the way down to 3.8%. What it means, in the case of flour and margarine, prices have dropped 20% to 30% in the case of flour, between 40 to 50 cedis, sorry, not percent, between 20 to 30 cedis in the case of flour, 40 to 50 cedis in the case of margarine. So you would expect that the price of the bread that Sarah bought, will come down. It hasn't. In the case of the second guy, it actually has gone up by 1 cedi. But that again illustrates the inflation question, right? So in 1 year, it's gone up by 1 cedi. So prices are increasing, but at a slower rate. It could have gone up by as much as 10 cedis. Remember, inflation used to be above 50%. That, we didn't have price stability. In the first guy's case, inflation is stable because the bread we bought from him is 22 cedis. And it's been 22 cedis for a year. That's price stability. That is the benefit you get when you have inflation that low. But this is another benefit. For those two guys who run the bakery, they are making savings from the flour because that price has dropped, and they're making savings from margarine. So for them, the producers who manufacture this, the producers' bread, they have savings in their pocket for themselves and for their families. So their purchasing power have obviously improved. But he tells you another story, that he's then looking at other factors like spare parts. But I question that, because if you have stable exchange rate and the cedi is strong, you expect that it to translate to the cost of spare parts will drop. So in his case, and the two of them, their cases, they are making profit there. Profit that they wouldn't have made a year ago. But they say, remember, for so long a time, they were bearing the brunt, and so it's time for them to reap the rewards. But economic theory, prices are sticky. They will not drop as fast as they increase. And so although we've seen in the case of bread, the margarine prices have gone down, flour prices have gone down, cost of bread remains the same. Sarah, you can have your bread back. But that is, in a nutshell, thank you, Sarah, what inflation is all about. And again, comes back to the first point that we made from the finance minister. He says he was remembered as a minister who reduced prices. In the case of margarine and flour, he's ticked that box. In the case of bread itself, he has price stability. In the case of the second guy who runs the bakery, who has increased it by 1 cedi, yes, price has gone up, but it's slower than you would have had if inflation was at 23% as he met it when he came in January. So I hope that explains the point about inflation. Let's use cake again and fish. And again, this is in the inflation basket, by the way. I want to isolate the subject of fish, but again, if you look at cake and fish in itself, it used to be 17.8% inflation. In January 2025, it's dropped to 12.8% in the basket. Doesn't mean that the price of kinky has reduced, not at all. It means that the rate at which the price of kinky is increasing is slower. But in the case of fish, fried fish, the evidence says prices have dropped. There's deflation. So prices are going down when it comes to fish. And that's why we isolated that here. You see that that's minus 50.7%. Fascinating indeed, is it not? So we take that plate of kinky and fish. Kinky price itself is not reducing, but it's slow in terms of the rate of increase. But fish, according to Statistical Service, prices have dropped, and have dropped quite significantly. That, again, is an illustration. Again, you look at tomato. same story. In the case of tomato, we have prices dropping from 43.3% in January 2025 when Case Latterforson was sworn in and was vetted to minus 42.5. So I hope that explains what this whole inflation conundrum is concerned. What does that mean for you? Solar price increases. You begin to see that immediately. These two individuals who run the bakery, they're experiencing it as far as the business is concerned. Better business planning, they can plan. There's price stability. In a year, bread price, as far as the second guy is concerned, has gone up 1 cedi. You can price. You know that you don't have to be worried about any time you go, prices of bread have gone up or down. We have reduced arbitrary price hikes, which is exactly what we've seen. The bread we bought was 22 cedis. It's remained 22 cedis for a year. In a long time, we haven't seen that because inflation was very, very high. We have increased disposable income. That's true, because that man who hasn't passed it on to you, he's making some money from the margarine and the flour, and we have increased consumption. That is also showing there. But the fundamental question we need to ask when we sit down for a conversation is, how come flour has dropped, margarine has dropped, but they haven't passed it on? They explain that. What can government do to push to ensure that the positives we see in the prices reflected in the bread you buy? And it really across the market, by the way. It's not only bread that tells the story. Low inflation definitely does not equate to price reduction. We've already illustrated that for you. I don't have to belabor the point. Low inflation definitely equates to price stability. In the case of the bread that we just showed you, 22 cedis in a year, never changed. Even when it increased by 1 cedi, you can plan with that, price stability. Again, look at the question about the target. What the Bank of Ghana is targeting, 6 to 10% band is what you're hoping for, that this will sort of oscillate in to keep the single-digit inflation still going. Expected to remain within target band, barring any shocks. And the question about shocks is something that we need to talk about tonight, because again, whilst we are experiencing these positives and you're experiencing it in your pocket, as you illustrated with the bread, utility tariffs are a question. You heard one of them mention that point in the analysis of why he's not passing on the reduced prices in margarine and flour to you in terms of the cost of the bread. Agricultural supply shocks, gold and cocoa price volatility. These are things that we need to hedge against. How is the government doing that? We'll look at that too. Base pay, big question. Government got the labor unions to agree to a 9% increase because at the time they told them inflation was 8%. And then we are going to make sure they stay within this band. The workers agreed. They got 9%. Their followers said, no way, that is too small. But government has kept their promise to them. Inflation has gone down from 8% to 3.8%. What that means is that this should lead to more disposable income for them. As you just illustrated there, if you're a business person, you are enjoying that. You have the fuel prices that have gone down also. All that is the reason why you've seen labor, after the initial agitations, have calmed down. But the inflation begins to rise again, you definitely hear them complain. Fascinating indeed how all this comes together in terms of how this affects your pocket. My guests are joining me. I hope you get the sense of what this means for your pocket and the key questions around what promises were made as far as the finance minister is concerned and what he's delivered. Price reduction, stable city, job creation. 2 points we focused on, the first two. Let my guests weigh in after this. Thank you very much for staying with us. This is a question about inflation. It's about prices. It's about the economy. And I was very careful not just to have the politicians debate this, because it's about the real economy. So we want to have a fair mix of thoughts on this very important matter so that you can go out of the show, leave the show with something that, of course, helps you understand what is happening and what that means to you. And that is why you find that our guests are being carefully chosen to achieve that. And so we have, for example, in our midst, a trader who has agreed to join us in the studio straight from the market and agreed to come into the studio to speak to us. As a businesswoman, Margaret Nabila. Thank you very much, Margaret. I'm grateful. You represent the real economy, so I love to talk to people like yourself, because you tell us what is happening, how inflation is, you're experiencing it or otherwise. Also joining us, same reason why we also invited the new president of GUTA, to also join us in the studio. I'm delighted that he can make time to be with us. Clement Boateng. Mr. Boateng Medase, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evans, for having me.
The president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. And I said new because you didn't hear me say, I've forgotten his name again.
Dr. Bain.
Dr. Bain, yes. Dr. Bain, because he was constantly with us, but recently they did the elections and he stepped aside for him. So
no, his term has elapsed.
Elapsed.
2 terms.
2 terms.
Yes,
okay, good. But it's good to have you. Just to put it in context, he's the president of Gute now. I'm delighted that he joins us again. He'll give us a sense of how this is impacting in their lives. And then we'll have obviously the members of parliament who have supervisory jurisdiction over a lot of the institutions whose mandate it is to ensure that prices are stable and prices drop if they can. BOG, etc., Finance Ministry, as far as policy supervision is concerned. I'm delighted to say Kojo Nkrumah, a ranking member of the Economy and Development Committee, MP for Fuase Yerebi, joins us in the studio too. And these have some things to say about this already last week, and so it'll be interesting to help get him to expand on his thoughts on this very important subject. It's the bread and butter, really, of the economy. And then we have also with us is Ataisa. He's a member of the Finance Committee and MP for Sanerigu, representing the majority side in this conversation as far as the Parliament is concerned. And the technical advisor to the Finance Minister will also join us, Frederick Emisa, briefly on Zoom. In fact, he's on Zoom already with us because, of course, the Finance Minister, as I played before we started, at his vetting, gave us 3 bullets as far as his priority is concerned. 1, he says price reduction, reduce prices. 2, he says stable currency. And 3, he says create jobs. And you probably see what is happening as part of the priorities, and that's why we invited him. So thank you very much. And PMS is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Also brought to you by Pepsi and Cavity Fighter. And I always recommend those two to you. It is very simple. If you're looking for the storage tank, you're looking for the tortoise, that's a symbol of quality. You're strong, you're tough. And then Pepsi and Cavity Fighter is what I recommend to you every evening before you sleep, because throughout the day you're eating, it's stuck in your teeth. It can cause gum disease, but if you use that, it helps you maintain a fresher breath, but stronger teeth also. And then Stanbic Bank, if you see challenges, they don't at all. They see opportunities. And where others spot risk, they will simply unlock value. You need to look for the Stanbic Corporate and Investment Banking now and sign up for peace of mind. Let me come to first the businesswoman with us, Margaret. Margaret, you saw the video we played of the bread, the bakery, yes, the bakery owner. What do you say about that? Because I find it interesting that they both admit that the cost of the input cost has gone down. Flour costs have gone down by up to 30 cedis. Margarine has gone down by up to 50 cedis. And yet, in the first case, the price of bread is the same, 22 cedis over a year. In the case of the second guy, the price of bread has actually gone up by 1 cedi. Why are you guys not passing this on to us?
Okay, what I would say is that the first one, he said he feared to reduce the price because in case prices increase again, he might not be able to increase. So that's why he wants to maintain the price. But what I would say, for us, and even me, my prices have reduced. Okay. Some of my items.
What would you sell?
I sell foreign provisions, groceries, and then toiletries.
Okay.
Yes. I've reduced some of them.
Okay.
Even some, I bought them at a higher price. But for the way the prices are going, if you keep your prices, you might lose most of your customers. So you have to reduce it by yourself. And maybe what they fear is that after they have reduced the things, finish selling them, and then boom, prices increase again. What are they going to do? Like
you also have the same fear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Most of my items, I reduced them during the Xmas. But after the Xmas, when I wanted to purchase some of them back, they did not reduce. That means I've run at a loss there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's why he doesn't want to reduce his price.
But you have reduced some of your prices.
Yes, please.
Why? You explain.
Yeah, because for ours, we have a lot of competitions. So if you don't reduce your price, you lose your customers. Now, I do wholesale. For a wholesaler to come, he will call you, Auntie Maggie, do you have this? I will say yes. How much? The person wants to know the price, and then they compare the prices around before he or she will come. So if your price is a little bit higher, that means the person will not come. So you have to always be around asking of the prices, then you compare. Then if you have to reduce it, then you reduce it.
So all you sell, you import? Right?
Yes, please.
Okay. They has the stability of the currency, the cedi. And in some cases, the evidence shows that it's strengthened against the US dollar. Has that helped in making your purchases cheaper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And are you translating that directly to your customer?
Yes, yes. We've reduced most of the items. And even those who are bringing them, they have reduced most of the items.
Okay.
Except a few ones.
Okay.
That I don't know why they were not able to reduce. Okay. But most of the items have been reduced, and even some are still at the same price. We've not increased.
Okay. Is there a case where you've increased? Because inflation, as we've explained, it's not that prices are dropping, it's that the rate of increase is slower. Is there a case in your case, like the bread guy, for example, he says, I've increased the price of the loaf of bread by one cedi over a year. It's increased by slope, which is really what inflation is. Are there cases where you've had to increase the price?
No. As at now.
You haven't?
No.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Mr. President. So you had the guy who runs the bakery say the reason why he's increased his loaf of bread by 1 cedi is because the cost of spare parts has gone up significantly. Although, as she's saying, you are importing the spare parts, so you should be passing it on. What do you say to that?
Yes, I see, his action as a deliberate issue by not wanting to reduce his prices of the bread, irrespective of the fact that some of the commodities that he is using to bake the bread, has gone down. And I see that as an attitude of some of we Ghanaians, that irrespective of whatever situation that we find ourselves, we will not let our compatriots also enjoy, the gains that we have made. It is undeniable fact that the cedi, has appreciated for quite, some time, and the business community, has made some gains. So definitely, the gains that we have made, we supposed to, also pass it on to the consumer, for the consumer to also have a bit of...
Has that happened in the marketplace?
It has happened. It has happened.
Across board?
Yes, across board. But you see, in our local parlance, we have something which says, not to use your name, but they say Ephibia...
Mensahom.
Yes. Mensahom. Irrespective of whatever happened.
Guilty as charged.
People have made up their mind that they will not reduce their prices. I pity for those people, because the market that we are in is a very, very competitive market. And the business that we do, we use facilities in doing the business. And business thrives on turnover. So if you sit behind your goods and you say you will not, reduce it for the consumer to also, enjoy some benefit, you do so at your own expense. Your neighbor will sell fast and then bring in, more goods to make the turnover that he wants. And his business, will thrive. And then you will sit beside your goods and, will not make any sales. So I can tell you for a fact that generally, prices, have gone down. And that is why inflation also seems, to be going down. What does inflation mean? Inflation simply means, having a purchasing value of your money on either goods or services. And I can tell you clearly that if you want to talk about prices of goods, have generally come down. I had opportunity, to tour the market on, I think, 23rd or 24th December with the trade minister. We toured the Makola.
Because she was concerned that you were not passing on the gains from the exchange rate stability to us.
That is her concern. But when we tour the market, she clearly saw that prices of goods and commodities have really, come down. I was also with her when we tour the Abossey-Okai market. Abossey-Okai market has a peculiar problem, and that is what the trotro drivers are complaining about. It has to do with one type of, or a specific vehicle called Sprinter. Sprinter is scarce. If you go outside the country where we bring, those parts of Sprinter, notably Germany, is scarce to get. You make a full container of about 50 or 60 engines, you can get only maybe 2 engines of Sprinter. And common economics, talks about supply and demand. And so people take advantage that because that particular spare part is not available, they take advantage of trying to, increase their prices a bit. But of all the other, spare parts like Toyota, the Corollas, the Tesla, the Nissan, the Mitsubishi, prices have generally come down. So if somebody says he comes to Abossey-Okai and prices have not come down, then I don't know what the person is talking about.
Okay, so would you say, if you look at the inflation rate currently at 3.8%, and what you see in the marketplace is an accurate reflection of what you're experiencing in the marketplace?
Yes.
It reflects.
And I think Statistical Service have also attested to that in their report that they channeled, I think, about
just last week.
Just last week. They made it clear that as a result of the downward trend of inflation, prices have generally gone down. Yes.
I want to bring in Kojo into the picture now. Kojo, you raised the issues last week on this. What are your reflections on this inflation? 3.8, and historically, a Statistical Service tells us that it's the lowest inflation we've had in 27 years. The last time we had something similar was 1999. Put it in a broader context of things. Is this one that we should obviously take to the bank? And, I like the traders making their own views because they are feeling it. They say it's reflecting in the businesses and their translation to customers and consumers.
So, good evening to my colleagues, to you and to our viewers out there. I think, starting off, we should correct some facts. I don't think it's correct to say that price levels have generally gone down. That's not what the Ghana Statistical Service is saying. The Ghana Statistical Service is reporting that the rate at which prices are increasing last year as compared to this year is just a 3.8% jump. So year-on-year inflation is 3.8%. That is not the same as prices have gone down. And I think if you watch the videos that you played, you have people telling you that while some of their inputs have gone down, others have gone up. And so the net effect that for some of them, they are keeping their prices constant. For some of them, because they are of the view that the net effect is even higher, they have increased by, I think, about one CD or so. Yeah. So I think let's start off by being clear on the facts, because sometimes the narratives can be deceptive. That prices have gone up year on year by about 3.8%. Now, the comment I made on the very afternoon when the Statistical Service announced that, and even the videos I watch and listen, I think are on all fours, where consumers in particular are saying that we hear you, but what we're experiencing appears to be higher than the 3.8. And there are a number of reasons that you can delve into for that. Inflation, first of all, is a measure of a particular basket of goods based on the last time the Ghana Living Standard Survey was conducted. We've already gone past the 10-year threshold to amend that. And you will find that some of the things that people are spending on today and the weight of those things in their expenditure baskets don't necessarily reflect what may have been done about 10, 12 years ago. And so people's spending patterns today may not necessarily correspond to the 10, 12-year-old basket and the weights that are being used. And that's why you find people say, we hear you saying that inflation has come down to 3.8, but our lived experience when we go out there to buy appears that things are going up way higher than 3.8. I think the second thing also is to examine about 3 things. The methods that are being used to bring inflation down, the costs of the operation we are doing currently to bring inflation down, and the sustainability of what we are doing. And I believe that when we get into those discussions, we can then compare why governments struggle to translate low inflation figures necessarily into lower prices across board of goods and services on the market. When we get there, I believe we'll get
fair points.
Yes, so let me also say that as a government, I think that we welcome the continued easing of inflationary pressures on goods and services. And before I respond to that, let's make it clear that inflation or lower inflation rate is good for individuals, businesses, and the government itself. For individuals, like you made mention, it stabilizes their purchasing power. That guarantees planning. Then for businesses, it reduces economic uncertainty for investment to come to Ghana. And then for government, it creates a very predictable environment for investments, jobs creation, and growth. Now, let me also say that inflation, if you look at the Statistical Service report, the inflation, the weight reference has been updated on the Kojopon Nkrumah. The current reference weight we use is period 2017. So I see that if you look at the division, in the 13 divisions that they use, these are basically what you and I and any other Ghanaian actually uses. So for example, food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity and gas, clothing, recreation, sports and culture, education, restaurant, and then communications. These are basic staple necessities that you and I use. And it is not suddenly changed because it is a particular regime. This is something that has been used since. The only difference I will admit is that if you look at the report also, if you look at the price reference, we have included the newly created regions, and that was back as of 2021. That is what has just changed the dynamics. But it was reported since 2021, the same methodology that was used from 2021 is the same methodology that we are using now. Now, to deal with the issue, it is important for us to acknowledge that absolute pricing and relative pricing is very important to know. You can have a declining inflation. It does not necessarily mean absolute price of goods and services will reduce. And this is particularly important for us to know. First of all, from 2022 to 2024, you realize that there was so sharp increases in prices. In fact, at a point, inflation even peaked at 54%, which increased base of every product. So the current disinflation that we are seeing are all calculated on those higher bases. So a mere stability we are experiencing now cannot easily erode or erase all the earlier increases that we saw between 2022 to 2024.
And there's an argument that that's why the businesses are also not, some of them not reflecting. So because it's a cumulative thing.
It's a cumulative thing, which is very important. Number three is also that, like in our informal discussion, I was telling you that businesses still have inventory that they bought at higher cost. She just admitted that she still have 2-year-old stock.
I don't think she articulated that yet. You have 2-year-old stock?
Yeah, she said.
Okay. When you buy them?
Last 2 years.
Okay.
So
that's utensils, silver, and those things. It doesn't move.
So you're still selling that?
Yes.
We are still selling at the price.
Some of them have reduced.
Okay.
Yes, and also
because those who have imported now will have they'll compete with you.
Yes.
And so you have to be forced to
you have to
be
forced to exactly. Now, I'm also trying to make a point that even retailers still have old stock which they bought at expensive rate, and they are still in their warehouses.
Yes.
So a mere reduction in inflation rate does not automatically translate into an instant price reduction. And that is why sometimes when you go to the market, some will expect that, oh, my price hasn't changed.
But to Kujo's point, we don't expect a reduction because inflation itself means prices are still going
I'm coming there. Look, he explained it brilliantly when he said it's a weighted average. Even in the basket, if you look at the report, if you look at transport, for example, negative.
Yeah, it's one of the lowest contributors.
Do you get the point?
Yeah, but that's also because of the reduction in fuel.
So I'm saying that within the basket of the 307 products, you realize that some will fall actually, some will increase.
True.
I've always maintained.
As we saw.
Yes.
margarine
has
price
fallen, flour has fallen, but
yes.
spare parts, according to him,
it's gone up.
Increased. So when you net it off.
And energy cost as well.
Energy cost.
Yes, energy cost.
Fortunately for us, the methodology incorporates energy. It incorporates education. It incorporates electricity. When you take the weighted average, and it is not small, if you look at the weight that we give to electricity, gas, and other fuel and housing, is 10.2. In fact, it is the next highest to food and non-alcoholic beverages. So it gives you that even the relevance and percentage we give to electricity, water, and gas is high in the calculation of inflation. So I don't want it to go out there that some products have not actually fallen. Even as you said, these are business people. We met GUTA, Trade Committee. We met GUTA last year.
Yeah.
And they gave us a list of products that have actually seen price reduction. But we will wish to have reverse inflation or negative or deflation. We are not there yet. But I am saying that when you have inflation growing at slower pace, it stabilizes your purchasing power. Finally, let me say something also that has to do, this misconception. We have, even in the report, on regional price disparities. Prices across the country, that's why they will tell you that first, they will tell you the number of products that they are using. Then they will tell you the number of markets that they will visit, and then they will tell you the selected outlets that they will visit. They have visited 16 regions.
Yeah.
And note this, you don't compare prices from Accra and compare the same item in Tamale or in Kumasi. That is why Ghana Statistical Service report regional price inflations. And if you look, Northeast has the highest inflation of about 11.2% year on year as we speak. The most expensive region is Northeast. And then the lowest region with the lowest inflation, let me say, is Savannah region. So the effect of inflation also varies based on where you are. And it is particularly because of, one, production factors issues. Because transport costs, how people transport goods from farm with bad roads and all those things influence the pass-down cost to the final consumer. So there are various, even seasonality of the product. These are all other factors that influences price. So you can't sit in Greater Accra and somebody in Tamale is saying that price have fallen, and you are saying yours has not fallen to that level, and then you say that the Statistical Service is reporting negative figures or poor figures.
I want to go back to something that Kojo says, and I think you raised three important questions we need to interrogate, which is the method, the cost. Please expand on that for me.
So, I mean, let's do a bit of some historical analysis. This is the first time in a very long time that inflation, year-on-year inflation, is at 3.8%. That's true. But this is not the first time we've found ourselves in a single-digit inflationary period, especially in the early years of an administration. I've made the point over and over again that if you go back to Kwabena Dufour's time, for 3 years there was single-digit inflation. That's when, Fifi Kwete coined the expression unprecedented. Then you have the MPP's 2018-2019 window where we brought down inflation 7.8, 7.1. You still had single-digit inflation. And if you look at post the 54% as a result of the challenges that we had, the forecast was that in 2025, inflation was going to be about 11%, averaging about 11%. Now, there are methods that governments use. Inflation generally has two sides to it. There's cost push inflation, and then there's a demand pull side of it. So one of the first questions you want to ask yourself is, what is the real driver of inflation in Ghana? In Ghana, mostly it's cost push. It is either the inputs of production, the cost of the inputs of production, electricity, raw materials, labor, all of those things, or the exchange rate, because a good chunk of what we consume here in Ghana is imported. So when you have depreciation, that's when you have what they call imported inflation passing through. But both of them will sit on the cost push side. And then you have the demand pull, essentially, which is when there's the view that there's excess liquidity in the economy. So one of the first things you want to consider is, what are the methods being used? The central bank has the mandate to pursue price stability. And they will give you a target of 8 plus or minus 2. What it means in simple language is that Ghana's inflation is supposed to be between 6 and 10%. to achieve two things. One, to achieve some relative price stability, and two, to keep the engine of economic growth running so that you can grow and you can create jobs. When you go too low, you begin to slow down the economy as well. Now, the methods matter in the sense that if the main driver of inflation in Ghana is mostly cost push, you want to ask yourself, what is the method being used to rein in inflation? And what is the cost of that method and how sustainable is it? And so, for example, if electricity prices are rising, utility prices are rising, cost of raw materials are rising, and the central government is not doing anything about that, what will happen is that the central bank will come in and try and do what you call sterilization or tight monetary policy, with the assumption that if you suck out the money from the equation, you reduce the demand and therefore the propensity for prices to go up. It does not mean that the actual cost of production in any way has gone down. And you find that in some of the answers that your respondents gave you. One of the ladies said, there's no money, people are not buying. And I'm sure the traders who are here will tell you that that's a common refrain in town. That is as a result of the heavy sterilization that the government has done. As a method, so the central bank has done heavy sterilization. Initially, you recall when we mentioned it, they denied it. Now they admitted at the end of the year that they had done over 60 billion Ghana cedis worth of sterilization. What that means is that they've sucked that money from the economy. And so that amount of purchasing power is not available to people to buy. So people who are ordinarily even selling the same items at a point say that, listen, let me get rid of this thing and cut my losses. She's here, she's nodding to it because she knows it, she feels it in the market. So the methods matter. And by the way, sterilization is not at zero cost. While we are talking of unprecedented 3.8 in about 20-something years, let's check the other side to see when was the last time we sterilized 60 billion cedis from the equation. And I bet you will find out that it will be a par. That this disinflationary path on which we are is being driven extensively by the sterilization and then the tight monetary policy that the central bank is doing. But on the cost push side, you'll find that the real cost of production is actually going up. And so producers in the Ghanaian economy will tell you that it is getting more expensive to produce. The other thing that has happened on the cost push side is
on the production bit, considering that a lot of what we produce, the raw material is imported.
Yes.
You have to obviously factor in the exchange rate question.
I'm coming to that.
That definitely should lead to.
I'm coming to that one. So on the cost push side, you remember I mentioned two things. I mentioned the actual cost of production, and then I mentioned the exchange rate. The other thing you will find is that the appreciation of the cedi by between 36 to 40% is contributed extensively to reduce the level of imported inflation into our economy. So you ask yourself again, what are the methods being used to achieve the appreciated currency? And the method being used to achieve the appreciated currency essentially is the high levels of intervention that the central bank is doing. Nothing else. That's what's happened. So you come to my second question about what is the cost. I've told you that sterilization is not free. When the Bank of Ghana sterilizes 60 billion cedis into its system, they pay for it. So you'll find out that on the BOG's books in 2025, you'll see the cost of sterilization there. The other cost of sterilization is not just the amount of money that the central bank is paying, but it is in the reduction in credit to the private sector. Because once you suck out all that liquidity, the money that would have been otherwise available to my colleagues here for them to borrow at a low rate and do business, they can't get it. And if they will tell you, they'll tell you that it is more difficult now to get credit from the financial system than it was previously.
But to that, today, I've heard the Bankers Association make the point that the lending rate is going to fall to 17%. And I guess that makes sense because if the monetary policy obviously is leading to inflationary drop, then there's no need to tighten it anymore, losing it, and then we're going to see that drop. That is important.
Extensive work trying to map the reduction in the rate to the rate of growth in credit. It doesn't align. So you can reduce the rate, but it will not necessarily translate into a growth in credit to the private sector. In fact, the governor of the central bank quite recently, in one of the publications, I think at the last MPC, admitted that in 2025, credit to the private sector, I think, reduced by half or so. It's reduced extensively. You can let your business team check. He's quite recently mentioned that. And those in the business community will tell you. So the cost is not just the nominal cost to the central bank, the cost is also to the business community, credit to the private sector for them to be able to engage in the kind of productive activity that expands the economy and creates jobs. The other thing is that if you look on the cost push side, the exchange rate that is being stabilized by the heavy intermediation that the central bank is doing. I mean, I'll put away the fact that in the beginning the government denied it totally, that that's not what they were doing. The governor said it wasn't true. The president said it wasn't true. It was later that they admitted that what they were doing was intervention, but when they stopped temporarily, then there was the depreciation again. And you recall after the IMF agreed with them on a framework which requires them to announce every month, that's when they resumed, and now they are doing currency pegging at 10. And at the end of the year, they admitted that they've intervened by about 10 billion. That 10 billion is coming at a cost again to the Treasury. A couple of things. Number one, it is coming at the opportunity cost of a reserve buildup. Yes, we have been able to build up our reserves to over 5 months of import cover. We've covered the threshold that we are required to cover. But the opportunity cost is that now we are using a lot of that for market intermediation. Now we are finding out that a lot of our gold reserves, about 50% of our gold reserves, have been sold. And we are getting a lot of information that part of that is being used for the purposes of the intermediation. About 50% of Ghana's gold reserves in 3 months sold for the purpose of, like they say, swapping to Forex, but we are understanding that they are using a good chunk of it for the market intermediation. So part of the cost of that stabilization, or the cost of that stabilization, is the depletion of our reserves, particularly our gold reserves as a republic. Another part of that cost, and I think you've heard Professor Bokpin talk about it, the government wants to run away from it, but that is the truth. They are purchasing a lot of Galamsey gold, yes, to be able to fund this exercise they are doing and keep the currency at that pegged level. They like to deny it, and they would, jump on you once you say it.
But just for the awareness of that, there's no evidence to suggest that. It's so rumored.
Let me give you anecdotes, and this is where we expect you, the media, to also do some digging, even as we are doing some digging. Currently, there's only one entity that exports gold in our jurisdiction. It's been monopolized. If you look at the export data, the large-scale mines haven't changed what they are exporting. In fact, the one that has significantly jumped up how much they are exporting is that one entity, that's the gold board. You cannot deny in this country that there's a lot of illegal gold mining going on, a lot of Galamsey activity going on. Today, you have reported on a municipal chief executive who's been fingered at cutting deals with gold miners in his district. It's going on, nobody can deny it. Who has the power to buy gold from within our jurisdiction?
There's also smuggling.
But they've told us that they've clamped down on it.
Yeah, but that's
no. In two ways.
That you can do, but that doesn't stop the. Yeah,
in two ways. One, they've told us that they have clamped down on it. They arrest people, come and show them on television every time. And number two, they've told us that the reason for which they are paying a premium for gold purchases is so that people will not smuggle. So if you put all of that together, it stands to anecdotal reason that there are questions to be answered about where the Galamsey gold is going. And anybody who tries to play ostrich with it is just, deceiving themselves.
Let me get
cost. I'll land. The cost of the stabilization exercise also is one we cannot run away from. And that's why I raised three things. I say the methods matter, the costs matter, and then the sustainability matters. And so I come to the final point.
Very briefly.
So how sustainable is it for you to be buying gold from these sources and injecting onto the market to keep the currency at 10? Or how sustainable is it for you to be depleting the gold reserves of the Republic for the purposes of this intervention? If you look at it on the demand pool side, how sustainable is it for you to be sucking up 60 billion cedis on an annual basis so that you sterilize and there's not that much liquidity in the system? That question of sustainability will come down the line, and I believe, God willing,
and that's before I come to you briefly, let me check something, because I have the Margaret and the president here from Guta. I mean, Mr. Boateng, on the question of credit, you obviously, this is something that you need. Is it cheaper now to get capital?
Well, this is something Guta has been, complaining over the years that we've seen policy rates coming down, but it does not, transcend to
the cost of capital.
Yes, lower lending rates. And we have been calling on the regulator, that is the Bank of Ghana, to try as much as possible to impress upon the banks to, reduce their lending rate, because
it hasn't gone at all.
Currently, at the last reduction of the policy rate, it used to be 18%.
Yes.
And now it's they reduced it by 250 basis, so it's currently 15.5%. Yes. So at this reduction, that I've seen that some of
the banks are responding.
Are responding, which I think it will be in the.
What it means is that you're expecting now that you're going to get capital cheaper.
Yes.
Than you used to.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the governor, has said that before he exits from office, he will try as much as possible to see the lending rate at a single digit, and if he's able to do that, it will be good. Yes.
Margaret, do you also take loans?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, now the market is slow, and we need to pay our suppliers. So we've been going out for loans, but when you come to the government side, their interest rate is down.
Okay.
But those cooperative banks and others that we can get money easily,
quickly,
their interest rates are a little bit higher. Some of them, I think, is 6% a month.
That is on the microfinance.
That's the microfinance level. But overall, when you see, have you seen any reductions in the cost of the borrowing that you get? Not now. Okay.
All right. Apart from the cost, there's also the supply.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you a date, I'll come to you shortly. On the 17th of October, when we were in the US with the governor admitted that credit to the private sector was dwindling, and that even where credit was being given by the banks, it was tilting more towards government assets more than credit to the private sector. So it's not just about the rate. It is also about the supply of funds to the private sector.
Okay, so I don't like to do this, but we have to.
No, factually, of course.
Now, credit to private sector has not dwindled. It has increased by 19%. In fact, it was reported even in the 2026 budget. And even at the Finance Committee, when they brought down their mid-term development framework, it is stated clearly that access to credit funds have increased by 19%. Sterilization. I hear the MPP make that concept of sterilization. It is not supported by any theory. When government wants to mop up liquidity in the market, the only tool, the Bank of Ghana has policy rates as its tool to either influence inflation or interest rates. When you want to mop up excess liquidity, what the government normally do is to increase the policy rate so that it becomes an incentive so that people will push their money in there to get more returns. That is the time government mops up the money. When policy rate is reducing and interest rates at banks are reducing, you can't call it sterilization because it creates an avenue for loanable funds for private sector to operate. So when you say mop up of 60 billion, where are you getting that data from?
The Bank of Ghana.
No, I beg you. I beg you.
Hold on.
Sterilization does not mean.
Hold on.
Let's get it right.
You asked a specific question.
No.
You want him to answer so that we move very briefly because he's.
He invited me, ranking member of the Economic Committee. We invited the Central Bank to our committee. We asked them a direct question.
Yes.
They gave us that figure.
So 60 billion, they said it.
I said
BOG said it.
Sterilization does not mean.
No.
Okay, so who exactly?
The governor himself gave us that.
Your explanation
in the records of Parliament.
Your explanation of sterilization.
In the records.
It says it's in Parliament. You want to? We have to verify that.
I'm saying that the meaning that he gives to sterilization is not supported by any theory.
Okay.
That is not how you simply means that.
Which meaning have I given?
So no. Could you? I want.
Let me answer that one. What tool do they use to mop up the money? What is the tool that they use?
You do not know the tools that the Bank of Ghana uses.
Because if you go by the tool that they should use to mop up excess liquidity,
have you checked their open market operation numbers?
Okay,
I'm asking you a question. Have you checked their numbers?
Because once you ask me a question, you must address.
From
this, speak to what you know.
If you want to reduce this into a debate,
but frankly,
we can't go there.
No, frankly,
so it's okay. It's okay. I think. I'm saying 60 billion. Okay.
I'm saying that the definition of
the thing about this is that because Kojo has said the governor has room to come and deny.
There is no public record on that.
Okay.
There is.
I'm telling you.
Before a committee of Parliament and gave the figures.
No, but it's,
both of you are in Parliament.
Yes.
So I want him to articulate.
We have economists watching us.
Yes.
I'm saying that the definition of sterilization as given by Honorable Ponkoro
by the way,
is not correct.
No.
Number two,
it's okay.
I haven't.
Meaning
what I have said is that you have done 60 billion.
And I'm telling you that the meaning you have given is not correct.
A direct question to the governor.
Let me proceed.
And the governor responded that they have done 60 billion.
Let our
the governor doesn't know what
I don't have. Look, there's no record.
So, by the way,
okay.
No, it's okay. So you dispute.
I dispute that because
fundamentally
that the Bank of Ghana
policy rate tightening the monetary policy to
is the policy rate, and even open market operations. Bank of Ghana is mandated by law, and they've given us their annual report.
Okay.
Which
you didn't see
2025.
And you didn't see
yes, Finance Committee
published.
Oh, but you said Parliament. Is this 60 billion anywhere?
Yes, it is.
Now let me.
The Economic Committee of Parliament.
Look, economists are watching us.
Yes.
You can call them subsequently. When they say sterilization of money in an economy or mopping up excess liquidity, the tool that they use is supporting the data that they have to increase the policy rate. That would drive in for people to use it as a switching cost. If I look at the policy rate going up, it means that it is an incentive to drive my money there. And then they mop it out. But when policy rate is decreasing, you cannot call it sterilization. That's my point.
Okay. But I have not said it's policy rate.
Okay.
Please, let me... Methodology as to how we got the appreciation. They've been making this argument, and I think that we have to end it. Financial intermediation, every country in the world, when you have a forex market, in fact, one of the bans of Africa that causes currency volatility, depreciations, and continuous trade imbalances in African countries has to do with weakened or shallow forex markets. Every country in Africa, according to the AFTA data, is mandated to promote a deep forex market. And how do you do that? What causes currency volatility is because when private sector wants to get exchange rate to import their commodities and it is unavailable, then the limited quantity that is there will determine the price that they give to us. So Bank of Ghana always intervene in the market. And look, the intermediation that they do is not a free intermediation. You have cedis and you need dollars for importation. Bank of Ghana gives you an equivalent rate in cedis, in dollars, and collect the cedis back. So if you say Bank of Ghana has pumped in billions of dollars into the forex market, it is part of its core mandate to ensure that we have financial market stability and then economic growth. Now, let's come to this concept of reserve buildup.
On that point, the IMF program actually allowed that.
Of course.
To the extent that you also can build your reserves, they gave them a certain room to do so. Exactly. And a BOG governor came to make a point that because they met that threshold, they allowed to do more intermediation.
The IMF in 2025 summarized everything for us. They said that they want to praise this government for addressing all the policy slippages that they witnessed in 2024. And the government has taken corrective measures. Today, this afternoon, we met the finance committee met the IMF statisticians on the annual debt reporting.
Your committee?
Yeah, finance committee. We met them this afternoon, this morning at 10 a.m. And I can tell you on authority, Ghana virtually performed 96% of all EMR targets. So if the Bank of Ghana is doing financial intermediation that is excessive beyond what the IMF has required us to do, they would have reported it. And I'm saying that it's a standard practice. Go and read various literature on forex volatilities in Africa. They will tell you that Africa has shallow forex market. And the reason is that when private sector wants funds into to purchase imported goods, they do not have it available. So supply is always lower than demand, and then it pushes down the currency up. I want to correct something also. What are the input costs or cost of production? This Guta and the businesswoman is here. Tell me what determines production costs. What data are you using to suggest that production cost has rather increased? What data are we using? You can't use cost of energy and electricity and water as the only cost drivers. Production cost, we've learned basic economics on production theory. Production cost goes beyond that. And any other item in a cost theory will tell you that it's on a decline. So what basis are you using to say that production cost has rather increased when we are seeing the reverse because products are coming down? So if cost of production is increasing, why are we seeing a reflection in production declining, output price declining? It's because the production cost has reduced. Look, every time you are calculating the final price of a product, you use the production cost plus margin that you want to make. So for a price to come down, it means that either they reduce their margin or they are reducing the input cost. So how can input costs be going up and their margin stable and then you are having a decline in prices? It doesn't make any economic sense. So please, there's no data that suggests that production cost has increased. Now, on issue of interest rate, let's be honest to ourselves. We took interest rate at 29%. Guta. That is why industrial performance in 2023 came to negative 2%. Because private sector could not have access to loanable funds. Interest rate was around 29%. We didn't see Honorable Kojo Mpokura talk like that. Today, we are seeing policy rate dropping to 15.5, and the expectation is that it will force down. In fact, at the beginning of this year, interest rate at interbank rate was around 19% in some banks.
No, it's more than that.
I'm saying that at the beginning, I know a particular bank. I'm telling you.
In the market are telling you.
I'm also.
As for that, it's not.
If you go to GC,
no bank.
If you go to GC, no, I'm coming.
No, okay, he's mentioned the bank now. He's mentioned the bank. He's mentioned the bank.
And if you want, I will let them call the MD, Honorable Farhan here. I'm telling you that I know a business person who got at a concessional rate of 19%. So you cannot tell me that 29% is better off than 19%. All these things fits into the production cost. Let me respond finally to this Galamsey issue. Honorable Kojo Nkrumah, you've repeated it several times, and you people, I don't know when you will stop. There is an appropriate forum with a legal regime that you can file to get this information clarified. Am I right? The basis they use to say we export Galamsey gold is because Gold Board is now the only bank that exports gold. Ghana had a carried interest in the past at our gold and extractive industry at 13.7%. In some cases, somebody is saying that nationalize and restore the value to our Ghanaian cedi. I buy the gold irrespective of the quantum in cedis to give dignity to our Ghanaian cedi. And then I become the only conduit to which gold is exported. What was reported in 2025, I'm sure it was a joint committee meeting, I remember. The data we saw was that the amount of Forex that we made from Dubai was $2 billion less compared to what was reported by the Bank of Ghana. The reason was because a lot of the gold was smuggled out to Dubai. Government is now making it punitive so that gold is not exported to any parts of the country without the government getting the necessary.
If you close the loop, what happens to the illegally mined gold?
Thank you. Now let's come to, I'm coming to tell him why there is a difference. One, smuggling is now very difficult to do. Two, there was 1.5% withholding tax on artisanal mining. That was a disincentive and it made our price not competitive. The justification, when the Gold Board bill came, the justification was that if we are able to remove the 1.5% withholding tax on artisanal mining, what it means is that it will make Ghana price very competitive. People will now look at a lower production cost, and then they will not see Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire as an enviable route to take our gold. Government, through the finance ministry in 2025 budget, announced the withdrawal or the abolishment of the 1.5%.
So where's all the Galamsey gold going?
What do you mean by the Galamsey gold?
I'm asking you a specific question. All the Galamsey gold that is dirtying our water bodies, where is it going?
So you see, these are intuitive conclusions you are drawing.
Where is it going?
Not verifiable.
Where is it going?
Yeah, no, I don't know any Galamsey gold.
You don't know any Galamsey gold?
Have you seen the Galamsey gold?
Today you are
have you seen? So you don't know. Have you seen any? Have you seen?
No, very briefly. Let him wrap up.
So now let me wrap up with this.
So, but to that question, it's important. We need to find. Because that campaign won't stop.
Yes.
Because that part of the reason, part of the way to deal with it is also stop. So if you block the channels of taking it out legally,
it doesn't mean all has been blocked.
That's true. That's true. Because
you know, currently, what the Bank of Ghana has recommended we do.
Yeah.
The Bank of Ghana has informed Ghana. In fact, they are ready today. This afternoon, I asked that question. You can ask Dr. Stephen Amwa. on the traceability of our good. Because currently it's a big conversation.
But it's part of the gold board. The gold board.
No, calm down.
All this grammar.
No, it's not a grammar.
Where is the galamsey?
I mean, I think it's safe to say. No, but there's no evidence.
I've given you one anecdote.
No, I'm coming. Don't let me. I'm saying that.
He can also show us.
I'm saying that.
If he tells us, for example, that
I'm saying that
it's a different matter.
I'm saying that the gold board, the Ministry of Finance, have secured funding from the IMF to deal with the issue of traceability, so that every ounce of gold that is,
so that we can be certain where the gold is going. I think that
finally this issue that the conversation tonight was inflation.
Yes,
let's not run away from that. The conversation tonight was on inflation, and in Parliament in 2025, I made a statement that GDP was not a welfare indicator. Inflation is a welfare tool, and that is why if you look at the same statistical report. If you look at the Ghana Living Standard Survey 7 and 8, the last quarter of 2024 and the first 2 quarters of 2025, we saw 950,000 Ghanaians leaving the multi-poverty dimension angle. In last quarter of 2025 and this same first quarter, we are seeing another 330,000 people leaving the multi-poverty dimension. Then, Ghana Statistical Survey also reported that for third and fourth quarter of 2025 alone, poverty shrunk by 5%. If things are not going well, you won't see this welfare matrix.
No, but I think to be fair, Kojo hasn't said things aren't going well.
No, we are talking about inflation. And he's trying to say...
Just a second. I'll come to you.
He's trying to say, the reason why I responded this way is that the beginning of his submission, he was first of all questioning the methodology.
Yeah.
Now, nowhere in the world do they use demand pool inflation to determine inflation rate. Nowhere. Because data on it is not statistically available. Always we use the cost factor.
I think you didn't understand.
No, I understood you.
No, you didn't.
You analyze.
I was saying that the method you are using
gentlemen, give me a second.
On to inflation.
What is the method you were using?
No, listen.
Okay, gentlemen.
In 2018 and 2019.
Give me a second.
No, he's asked a specific.
No, I'll come to that. No. I have to hear very briefly.
We reduced electricity prices in this country.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing.
In 2018,
but I said at the beginning that the reason why I brought it is always I get Margaret. No, I'll come to you. I'll come to you. Margaret and
I hope when
and President of Guta to conclude. It's because when I know this will happen, but when you cut through it, you come to how we feel it, right? And she's expressed how she felt.
I've given you how people are.
No. It's okay what you've heard. But the evidence is that she said she's had to reduce some of her prices.
Yes.
Some of the prices are stable. He's also made the point about the fact that, yes, the cost of borrowing hasn't gone down as much, but he's seeing some benefits. So there's a reality. And then Kojo also makes a point, which is, if you look at the bread sellers, the bakers that we spoke to, they're doing a net off, and the prices of the bread is stable. Again, that is an impact of inflation with the stability of prices. One has gone up by 1 CD. So we're sort of seeing where the thing is. And then you can make up your mind. Could I come to you and you to wrap up? Because I know you have things to say. But I need to get Frederick Emisa's very brief thoughts on this. I know he's been online. And Frederick, I deliberately held you on because I wanted to have the key things dealt with here. As far as the finance ministry is concerned, you are the policy implementers. The key question for the ordinary Ghanaian is, how do you translate the benefits of low inflation, historically low, 27 years, lowest inflation we've had in that period. How do you translate that to our pocket in the most sustainable way? We've seen the evidence that, yes, the prices in some cases have gone down, in some cases very stable. Even when it's gone up, it's slight because obviously the inflationary pressures are now manageable. But how do you translate that is a key question that we're asking. What's the finance minister doing to achieve that?
Thank you very much, Evans. First of all, I want to say that we set a target for ourselves. The Honorable Finance Minister set a target for himself during his vetting that he wanted to achieve 3 things. That is a stable exchange rate, lower prices, and then jobs. And from every indicator that has been produced, it shows that from the Statistical Survey, it shows that he has actually met his targets in the first year, in the first 12 months of being the finance minister. So I just wanted to put that on record.
And to be fair, this is a show of factual presentation, which is exactly the presentation I did because the facts are there. On the jobs, though, I think the jury is still out. On the question of price reduction,
The jobs figures are out. If you want me to put it out, I can put it out.
Please share that. Share the job figures. I haven't seen the job figures. Share the job figures.
The Statistical Service says that over 1 million jobs were created.
Okay.
Within the first 12 years. So that is also another data which we can put at the Statistical Service. But like I said, I wanted to put on record that the 3 targets that the finance minister set for himself, he has achieved them in the first year.
Okay. 3
years shy of what his tenure is supposed to be. Now, I also wanted to establish the fact that Kojo spoke about the basket of goods. I must say that the basket we use to calculate inflation generally reflects the daily goods and services that the ordinary Ghanaian purchases. And your bread seller or your baker spoke about electricity. It was one of the reasons, one of the services or goods which the price have increased. And I must say, government was actually, we had no choice in the electricity conversation because we inherited the IMF program negotiated by the previous government, which negotiated what we call the multi-year tariff order, the MITO, which mandated that electricity tariffs must go up. So it was an automatic thing that this government had nothing to do with it.
It didn't say it must go up.
Go on.
No.
It's okay. Go on. Keep to the point because in the interest of time.
Yes. It must go up. So what it is that we were handed this chalice. There was nothing we could do about it. And the other thing is also that we just spoke about a supposed sterilization, and without mentioning that in 2022 and 2023, there were billions and billions of deficit financing in the economy. Monies were printed in the economy, the IMF reports, the IMF staff reports, and the various reports in 2023 said it. And to that effect, they had to sign, the government and the Bank of Ghana had to sign an MOU that there will be zero funding of the government's budget. It was as a result of the monetary financing of the budget that resulted in that. So if there was a supposed sterilization, it is a mop-up of the water in case the excess money that was thrown in the economy without a corresponding economic activity. Now, we talk about credit to the private sector and how it hasn't really changed much. And like Ataisa said, we have actually, the statistics has actually improved. The credit to the private sector has increased, and the average lending cost or the average commercial bank lending rate has reduced from 30 points, over 30% in 2024, by the end of 2024, now it's currently standing at 20.45 at the end of 2025. So every indicator is showing that the economic policies and the measures that have been taken to sort of ensure that inflation remains stable, the exchange rate remains stable, because there's a pass-through effect between exchange rate and inflation. So the more you have a handle on your exchange rates, the better your chances of being able to manage your inflation, especially if we're an import-dependent economy like us. The other thing that is actually holding you see, we keep talking about Galamsey Good, and we suspect that the minority side, because they know that there was a mutual evaluation happening in January, the idea of throwing out Galamsey Gold and all those things, trying to sort of dirty the work of the Gold Board, may sort of raise the antennas of the evaluators and sort of reprimand or even caution Gold Board in its activities. There hasn't been any evidence provided that Gold Board is buying Galamsey Gold. It's an intuitive deduction which the evidence does not support it. Gold Board has rather formalized and sanitized the operations of small-scale mining companies, but that will be a conversation for another day. What I wanted to say is that the forest generation capacity of this economy has improved significantly, which means that we have the leverage and the ability to intervene in the market. Every economy in this country practices what we call the managed floats form of exchange rate. There's not a single economy which practices what we call the the excessive flexible or floating exchange rate. We all manage our exchange rate. Yeah. And how do you manage your exchange rate? You manage your exchange rate based on your ability to generate foreign exchange, to intervene. So it is the arsenal we have built through the operations or through the policies we have put in place. So the idea of forex intermediation shouldn't be an anathema, shouldn't be a topic that if you are intervening in the forex market, you are doing something harmful. It is the tool you have. It is a tool you have as managers of the economy to ensure that your exchange rate is stable, prices are stable, and it translates into the pockets of Ghanaians.
And Frederick, on the subject of...
Lastly.
Yes, okay.
Taisa said that Guta presented a report on actual prices of goods and services which have reduced. I must tell you that it is over 4,500 items per that report. Over 4,500 items have seen reduction in their prices. And if you look at the, the breakdown, regional breakdown, some regions in the country actually recorded deflations. So when we talk about inflation and we're talking about the impact on the economy, we are saying that hasn't been a fluke, and the things that we did, the fiscal consolidation that we did, the forex intermediation, the forex generation, and all those things that we did, that ensured that we have a stable exchange rate and an environment which supports lower cost of production, including lower lending rates, will be sustained and will be continued.
Yeah, and very quickly, in 60 seconds, the sustainability question. How do we plan to sustain these gains? Very briefly, so that I can wrap up.
So if you've noticed, we have institutionalized the measures. For example, our way of generating our foreign exchange has changed through the operations of the gold bond. It's a permanent feature of our country. It's not going to go away. We have also ensured that there will not be frivolous spending by changing our PFM law and making sure that for the next 10 years, every country or every finance minister or every government is to ensure that we have a 1.5% primary surplus on commitment basis. Yeah. So what it is that we have made it a crime, and the finance minister can be censured if you spend more than you earn. So these are permanent features, and we have also brought a debt rule saying that you cannot allow, by 2034 the debt should be by 45% of GDP. And as we speak, by the end of 2025, we achieved that target many years ahead of schedule. So what I'm saying is that these are not things that were done on the go. These are permanent structures which are being created
as a result of deliberate policy.
Deliberate policy, which will ensure that all these gains are sustained.
Yeah. Frederick, thank you very, very much. Could you just have 3 minutes to wrap up very quickly?
On this thing of credit to the private sector, I'm quoting from the last Monetary Policy Committee report. It says the moderation in credit growth recorded in October 2025, moderation in credit growth reported in October 2025 is attributable to the contraction of foreign currency loans. The growth of gross loans and advances moderated by 9.1% in October 2025 to 102 billion compared to an annual growth of 28.5% in October 2020.
Which source is this?
This is the Monetary Policy Committee report. So now, for example, if he says that...
I just have a minute.
No, very quickly. If he says that the cost of production...
I have to respond to that particular one.
Talk to the AGI guys. Energy costs are going up by about 24% from January 2024. Labor costs in some areas are going up. Cost of parts, you just spoke to people who are telling you that it's going up. My last point, don't confuse a reduction in interest rates with a growth in credit to the private sector. You can have a reduction in the rate. It doesn't necessarily mean that people who are looking for the liquidity are getting it. Talk to the business people. They will tell you. And if anybody thinks...
But he sat beside when he said that he now is going to experiencing cheaper costs.
No, I have told
cheaper capital.
I have told you that the claim that the reduction in interest rates, remember I mentioned that the reduction has not reflected, and in fact it had dwindled, and he said it wasn't true.
It's not
He's
true.
the one who
It's
said,
not
he's the one who said,
but that's the reality, right? His reality is that he's now, based on the recent numbers,
hoping to experience.
No, he says he's seen.
Hoping to.
No, he said he's seen.
He was trying to convince that rates are.
No.
He hasn't experienced.
There's a reason.
My last point.
No. Could you wait? There's a reason why I brought Guta and I brought Madam Trader, so that they will obviously give us the reality. He says, and Mr. President, you say that you now are experiencing reduced cost of borrowing.
Yes. But I've told you that the cost, please listen to me. The cost, that is the rate, is not the same as the availability of the stock. I am talking about the availability.
Because of the mop-up. You said because of the mop-up, there is not.
Point I'm making. He's telling you that when he goes to the bank, it is not easier for him to get money. He was the.
But has he said that? You said that.
I didn't say that.
What did you say that he was?
So clarify. It's important. It's important.
What I said was that because of the reduction of the policy rate, which currently stood at 15.5%, lending rate has also.
That was not in dispute. He was making the point that it was easier to get, and I was making the point that was not easier.
Wait. Again. The only voice is yours. I want to hear it.
As for the availability of the money, if you want it at the current rate and you go to the bank, they will give it to you.
Why is the central bank itself?
No, I want that. 30 seconds.
Wait. I'm reading it. No. There's a reason why I brought Guta.
Yeah.
What Guta says is what I go with.
Yeah.
The money is available.
It's available.
And you're saying that you are going to get it cheaper now.
Yes, because of the reduction.
Okay.
Because of the reduction.
And same. When you go, are you able to access them funds? The loan?
For me, it's unless outside those small credit union.
Okay.
But the big banks, it's not easy to get.
Okay.
Has it been easy before?
The governor of the central bank.
And then I want 30 seconds to respond to only 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Go. See that? Go. Like I said, I hate to do this. When you are reporting the MPC reports, these are all every quarter or the windows that they do, that they measure. The October report you are saying is not an annual growth or annual moderation.
I haven't said it.
This is just a report.
I have
No.
I have read.
That's what I'm saying, that you are reading wrongly.
No, you are reading
because I said that 2025 access to private sector has increased by 19%. Then you are disputing me, and you are reading October
to you what the government himself
you are misreading October.
You are misreading.
You can
your own coke.
Okay. No, so both of you disagree. But there's something that Frederick said. There's something Frederick said that circles back to how we began, which was assessing a year on. Ato's declared three-pronged priority, which is reduced price, interest rate stability, and jobs. As for the jobs, he just quoted them as having seen. But on the two, you can see that he has achieved those in a year.
You can set
price reduction,
targets and
price reduction, and
you can
the
set yourself
stability.
Targets and mark and clap for yourself. I'm just coming from cocoa farms in my area.
Yeah. No, but the question was, did you concede that
listen,
on those two he has achieved that in a year?
I'm saying you can set yourself targets and clap for yourself. I'm just coming from cocoa farms in my area. The lived experience of people out there has nothing to do with these things that you are talking about. They are telling us today on the cocoa farms that for 3-4 months, they have sold cocoa.
So you're not ready to concede that on those price reduction?
I have not disputed those things. Okay. Please listen to me. I've not disputed, but I'm saying that you can
disputed that
and applaud yourself for it. The lived experience of the people.
So let's do the lived experience. Margaret, the finance minister last year says his priority, price reduction, exchange rate stability, creating your jobs. On those two, price reduction, exchange rate, would you say he has achieved?
Yes.
Okay. Guta President, has he achieved?
Yes.
Ask me too.
No. You're not living. No, you know why?
Enjoy
the rest of your evening.
He has even overperformed.